What up? I'm Shep Papelka. This is the Braves TomaBlog. I'm here talking about what the Braves did in the 2016 draft last week. It was controversial, it was a little confusing, and it left people feeling a lot of different ways. So let me preface this a little bit saying that my favorite thing that comes out after the draft is like the grades, all of the draft day grades for all 32 teams. And obviously you can't grade a draft right after it happens. That's absurd. We won't know how good of a draft any 30 of the 30 teams had until A, all the players sign or don't sign, and B, we wait 3, 4, 5 years and see how the players develop. We don't know what they are yet. So what do I mean when I say a Moneyball draft? Because Moneyball is one of those words that's thrown around with really any sport now. Whenever a team goes about accruing players in any type of like unconventional or unproven way in which the rest of the teams do it. And that couldn't be a more clear definition of what the Braves just did. So to clear up what the Braves did, the Braves had the number 3, number 40, and number 44 overall picks. And the number 3 pick was the highest in the organization's history since 1992 when we drafted, I don't remember. And many, including myself, expected the organization to take one of the many college bats available. You know, the lowest risk thing you can do. Instead, what the Braves did was something called picking above slot, which the Braves have completely denied. And they've been saying, like, no, Ian Anderson was number 1 on our board no matter what, which I don't believe for a second, instead of picking one of the bats. And the Braves picked a high school right-handed pitcher, Ian Anderson. Anderson was ranked 13th on MLB.com. He was in the same range on Baseball Prospectus and Baseball America, and so they picked him significantly above slot. He's expecting to go somewhere in the teens, instead he goes number 3. Why? Because the Braves believe that they could sign him for below the slot value. Well, why would they do that? Well, it opens up money for their later picks. So the Braves have a signing pool of roughly like about $13 million, and the number 3 slot is valued at about $6 million. But what the Braves did instead was they said, if instead of going like one talent like way above everyone else and signing them for that $6 million, that's almost like half of our pool, why don't we take someone who will take around $3 million, and then with our later picks we can get someone who slips to us and they can all be around the same talent level and all get around the same money. And so that's exactly what they did. They picked Joey Wentz at number 40, and they picked Kyle Muller at number 44. Wentz was number 16, and Kyle Muller was number 24 on MLB.com. So at first, it seemed as though, the Braves were saying, like, Ian Anderson's our number 1 no matter what. It seems like they were way off of everyone else in terms of valuing talent. And then by the end of the first day, it seemed like, no, they're actually with everyone else. They valued everyone about the same talent. They just wanted more of it than everyone else. So these 2 players dropped out of the first round because they had signability concerns. So teams figured like, the money that we can give them won't be enough, so they can go to college or, do whatever they want and come back later and make more money. So they decided they pass on them because they don't want to lose their pick. And the Braves decided, we'll save money with the first pick and we'll have more to offer them when they slip to us later. Now this was controversial for a number of different reasons. The primary reason, Newcomb, Allard, Sims, Fried, Soroka, Ellis, we have all the pitching you could ever want, and you don't want to bother drafting back. We had the worst offense of all time. Of all time! Check a projection site. And we couldn't draft a nice little bat at the top. The Braves have notoriously spent a long time accruing pitchers. Like a long time, and not much time accruing bats. Thus, they don't have many bats. And the offense is so bad. I don't have to tell you guys that. So you shouldn't ever draft for need. But if you're going to, now's like the best time ever to do it. We're almost bone dry in terms of bats. Now we have 2. We have Ozzie and Dansby, who are just seconds away from the majors. After that, there's really just Austin Riley, who we picked last year. He's a solid 3 years away. He's more than a minute away. And after that, nothing. No bats. And it was also controversial for this reason. What if we don't sign them? Then we're screwed. That's true, we would be screwed. And we passed on Corey Ray and Kyle Lewis and Blake Rutherford. And it's also controversial for this reason. You want to form a monopoly on left-handed pitching in the future? Look, that's awesome. I love that. That's great. It's good ambition. We still got to put an offense from somewhere on the field. And this is where it gets me, because a lot of people got really excited about the equity of talent that we accrued, and there's no reason not to be. We got the most talent on the first day of the draft. And you could say that that's an exercise in risk reduction. But given that we accrued 3 high school pitchers in a farm in desperate need of bats, you could honestly make the argument that it increases risk. primarily the first issue is signing them. You have to sign them or you set yourself a year back and you passed on great talents in the process. And in my opinion, that's, I think, well backed, is that if I were the front office, the most important thing to do in the coming weeks and months is you have to focus on Joey Wentz and Kyle Muller above Ian Anderson. They're more important to sign. Here's why. So Ian Anderson, Joey Wentz, and Kyle Muller are all comparable pitchers in terms of age, talent, stuff, projectability. If we don't sign any of them, we get compensated for the pick. Now, which would you rather have? You can have Anderson way up here, or you can go way down here and get the 44th or 45th pick if you don't get Joey Wentz or Kyle Muller. So Ian Anderson is in the Northeast, and he can't sign until after he graduates in late June. So that's a time for the Braves to focus on Wentz and focus on Muller, and then when all that's over and you can get them signed, you can sit Ian Anderson down, and there's a finite amount in the bonus pool. You throw him whatever's left, slide him an offer of around about $3 million, and you say, this is all we got, take it or leave it. I don't know why your high school graduation's in late June, it's pretty lame. So let's just assume that the Braves do sign all three players, and I do think that they will. So from there, your farm system is clearly the tops in the majors. The Braves have the clear best farm system in terms of the amount of talent in their farm system in the majors. But it's a farm system that does clearly lack variety. The Braves need to improve, and I'm not talking about rushing to 2017. I mean in general, 2017, 2018, 2019, the Braves need to improve, and they need to improve badly, and everyone knows what the Braves need. It's not one of those things of like, oh, how are the Braves going to get better? They need bats. They need a better offense with better offensive players to improve, and there are none on the way besides the two at the top. And that means that since you don't have anything in your farm system, it means that you have to go and get them. And you have to go and get them by trading for them, or you have to sign them at the major league level. Now, obviously, we have the depth to do that, but it severely hurts our bargaining power, and it severely increases risk. So think about the fact that besides, Ozzie and Swanson, there's nothing on the way in terms of major league bats. We really have to trade Julio Teheran in order to get some bats for next year and the year after that. So that takes away from our bargaining power, and it's going to be a problem at the major league level for a long time, that we're always going to need bats. And, Capalella said to the AJC, we never draft on need because needs change. Well, no, they really don't, especially if you don't address them. And it leaves the Braves in the high possibility of where they could trade another Adam Wainwright for another J.D. Drew, or they could trade another entire farm system for a Mark Teixeira. The point of the bargaining power is that every time you make a trade, there's lots of risk involved. You could end up like the Diamondbacks in the Shelby Miller trade, but you could also end up like the A's in the Josh Donaldson trade. There's always risk in an investment that you have to turn into something that you need immediately. If your entire life savings were a collection of antiques, well, you got to find someone to buy those antiques, or otherwise your antiques and your life savings are worthless, and they could always get damaged as well in the process. Pitchers. There's always huge, just monstrous risk in drafting high school pitching. And I wrote an article, and I'll leave it in the description, about how there had been, from 2010 to 2015, there have been 13 pitchers taken in the top 5 picks of the draft. And of those 13, I believe between 3 or 4 had turned into effective major league pitchers, maybe for their team, and 2 of them were Strasburg and Garrett Cole, who were number 1 overall picks, and they were also college pitchers. And from that article, I had someone point out that the sample size was very small. It was a 5-year sample size, which, admittedly it was. So I pushed it back to the year 2000, which is 16 drafts now. And since the year 2000, in the top 5 picks, there's only been 1 high school pitcher to turn into an all-star for his team that wasn't drafted number 1 overall. I don't think there was a high school pitcher drafted number 1 overall who turned into an all-star. But it was Justin Verlander. In 2004, he was drafted number 2 overall, and he was great. It never happened again 12 years later. It hasn't happened in the top 5. And so the Braves love, high upside high school pitching. I don't. I'm sorry to disagree with the Braves. I am not a fan of high upside high school pitching. Now, generally, I've clearly found that pitching doesn't work at the top of the draft. It does have a sweet spot, and that's from picks number 6 through 20. That's where Pitchers like Clayton Kershaw, Madison Bumgarner, Jose Fernandez, Max Scherzer, Zach Wheeler, Shelby Miller, Matt Harvey, Chris Sale, Lucas Giolito, Michael Wacha, Sean Newcomb, various others. They all got drafted in that range, and 2 or 3 of them, like Sonny Gray and Max Scherzer, went to college. The good news for the Braves is that that's where these pitchers were supposed to be drafted at if money wasn't an issue. So they were, ranging from around 10 to 25. That's where they were supposed to go. But in all reality, we know that more than likely all 3 pitchers are not going to make it to the major league level. And if they do, not all 3 are going to be good, but that's how pitching works. You have to get 10 and you hope that 2 work out. At the end of it all, it comes down to really one thing for the fans, and that's trusting the front office. Now, here's where I stand. Do I trust the front office to put together the best farm system in the league and yield crop after crop after crop of young talent? Absolutely. They've proven to me already that they know how to do that, and they've shown me that they're going to do that. But you also have to trust them that they can turn this specialized crop of talent into a winning major league team. And so far, they've done the opposite of that. And I'm not mad, that's not what I'm saying. But no, we haven't seen the front office put on a good product at the major league level. And do I agree that stockpiling a commodity such as young pitching is a great way to improve your team's equity? Absolutely. But it's far from a guarantee. Now, naturally, I got upset on draft day because, I put too much stock into the draft, which I had no control over it. That was wrong of me. And the Braves did something that I personally wouldn't have done. I would have just drafted Corey Ray. He was the best bat available at the time, I think, and I would have been excited to have him in our outfield in a few years. That said, the Braves did the best thing for the organization's equity. And that's what you're supposed to do with the draft. The draft isn't about getting major leaguers. It's about improving your organization and getting, good assets. And that's absolutely what they did. But it leaves a lot of work to be done, and it leaves a lot of risk ahead for Capalella. That's all I have for this episode. I'm Shep Papelka. This is the Braves TomaBlog. For what it's worth, I've been having a great time with all of you on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and various social media outlets. I post these videos once a week. I write 7 articles a week for realsport.com. I'm going to start streaming those through my Twitter feed for those of you that might be interested in keeping up with that. I really appreciate what all of you do. And keep talking to me, guys. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the feedback I've been getting from people. If there's any videos you'd like to see, please let me know. Talk to me about it. I really appreciate all the participation. So once again, this is the Braves TomaBlog. I'm Shep Papelka, and I hope you enjoyed.